Everyone online says you need to scale with a course. And I say, sell the damn service. I'm Emily Williams, award-winning consultant and Productized offer expert since 2014. And I'm here to help you work less, make more, and stop custom building your burnout. Each week, we talk strategy, structure, and the real stories behind sustainable service businesses. From service providers who like doing service work, who want to stay in service work, but also just make more money. If you're ready for all that yapping, then let's dive in. If you were paying attention the last couple of weeks, then you might have noticed that I was in a launch for sold out services. And so today's episode is going to be digging into insights, data, things that I thought were interesting when it comes to that launch. Not just in the sense of here's a launch debrief and here's what happened, but like truly picking it apart in the vein that you could apply it to your own program, your own done with you container. How are you tweaking your own service? Because adjustments were made mid-launch, which I hardly never do. And some conversations with some level 10 clients and some peers were had that impacted those decisions. And mm, let's just dig in. Let's just dig into all the good stuff. So, as a quick recap, Sold Out Services is officially a year old, which is bananas to me. Sold Out Services is a done with you container that is not a group program. It's a done with you one-on-one container that has been around since around February or March of 2025. It started as a higher ticket. It was around 7K, and it was one-on-one over the course of 3 to 6 months with one business owner at a time. And it was really, really in depth. And it was the typical case of it was priced right, but it was scoped too much. It had way too many things that I wanted to tackle and touch on and do, that there were some pieces of that project that felt like, ooh, did we fully complete that to the level that I wanted to? Because time ran out or because the business owner got overwhelmed, honestly. And that provided a really good reflection for me to start paying attention to more of when I say client experience, I mean quite literally, how does the client feel working with me inside of this container? And if they ever feel overwhelmed or they're not getting all of the pieces plugged in because there's not enough time, then that tells me there's too much in the scope, right? So I started to refine Sold Out Services, and the first kind of revision of that decreased the price from 7K to 4.5K. And it was still in a 3 to 6 month container, but it had basically an entire track of that process, of that framework, eliminated. So the first version had a lot inside that dealt with team capacity, delegation, leadership, how to work with your team, communication and leadership styles, like a lot of team things. And then a lot more heavy done with you Airtable things. So I pulled both of those elements out. Those were the biggest time sucks of the container that were not directly impacting the result I wanted to provide and that they were actually coming to me for, right? So once I refined that and we had now a $4,500 container, I was still doing it just like one client at a time, right? It very much felt like a project a project is a start and an end, right? And then at the end of this, we have this thing done. And I wanted to refine the deliverables, not just for the sake of productization and increasing my capacity. I think that's where some of this conversation gets a little bit muddy and a little bit lost, because some service providers will say, like, we don't want to work with more clients, or I don't need to, and I don't want to work with that many. And that's not the sole purpose of productization. For me, a big part of it is also creating a consistent client experience, creating consistent client results, and having just less decision fatigue for myself and for my client as we go through this process, right? Whether that means I can then delegate, streamline, or eliminate that thing because it's so streamlined or not, it still eliminates the decision fatigue of like, okay, where are we at in this project and what needs to happen in order to get the result? And everything is custom and everything is new for every single client, right? That's the result of productization. A byproduct of that is, hey, if you want to, you can work with more clients because you've now streamlined it. But regardless of whether you want to work with more clients or not, productization is still critical to eliminate decision fatigue. All right. And increase results. So I was already implementing those things and I got sold out services and the framework of it, the methodology of what needs to happen in order to get the end result that I'm after. And what order does it need to go in? And what are the resources in order to support clients as they plug in those? I call them pillars, right? There's 7 pillars of productization, and we go through each of them inside sold out services. So I got that buttoned up really, really tight and rolled it into a done with you container that was 6 months and is now 12 months. And I decided very intentionally, and this is a strategy I talk to my clients about all the time. I was at a crossroads where I knew the more data I had, the faster I would be able to make this service, this done with you container, even better. And I could chip away at that by landing a couple clients here, a couple clients there. Or over the course of 6 to 8, 9 months, I could get a lot of data, make really big refinements, tweaks, and decisions to the program, and roll out a really solid 1.0 and refine it to a really solid 2.0, and then continue to kind of refine it as data's coming in to make sure that the program, the container, the service is to the level that I want, right? And the way that you do that, the way that you get more data is that you get more clients to say yes to working with you in that container. One of the levers of doing that is by having a price that is an absolute no-brainer. And this is different for every single industry, every single business, every single offer. Depending on the result, the price still has to align with the result, right? And so I decided to roll out sold out services for $2,500. Remember, this is a container that used to be $7,000. Yes, it's refined. Yes, there's less one-on-one in the $2,500 version for sure. For sure. And the methodology is still the same. The things that I'm talking about and the order of them and the structure of here's how to productize your container, still the same, right? The support, the hand holding, and I say that in a kind way, I don't say that derogatorily, is different, right? And I knew that at $2,500, it would be a no-brainer to people. And it would enable me to work with more people in a shorter time frame so that I could get a lot of data. And the data I'm looking for isn't just the results people are getting and how are they going through the content, right? And working with me and submitting their questions and getting feedback and implementing. All of that is a huge portion of what am I looking at and what needs to be refined in order to make that process better, right? But I'm also looking at what are the kind of people that are buying at this rate and what results are they getting, right? And what questions do they still have after I've really buttoned up and streamlined the methodology that needs to be different. And so over the course of the last, well, since I would say August of 2025 until about 8 weeks ago, I was refining the how you go through SOS, right? So I'll give you an example. One of the things that I was noticing is that after someone was installing a pillar, and that's the language we use in SOS, right? You go through the authority anchor pillar and then you need to install that in your business. And that means, all right, we've refined your positioning statement that now impacts your content, your copy on your website, your proposal, your services page, your services guide, a pricing guide if you have it. It also impacts how you talk about your container when you're at a networking event. So your elevator pitch, right? Maybe your about page in your bio, maybe your sentence on your Instagram profile or Threads account. right? All of those things could be impacted once we identify your authority anchor, at least the one that we're testing. Well, what I was seeing is that my clients would work on their authority anchor with the methodology that we have in SOS. They would submit it for me to review, and I would typically rewrite and record a Loom video that provided additional feedback on their authority anchor, right? And I would, they would then say, okay, here's the authority anchor I'm going to go with. What do I do with it now? And so in real time, I started to then introduce at every pillar an implementation checklist. Okay, now that you have this asset done, and authority anchor is just one of them. We also map out your scope and deliverables of what needs to be inside of your container, the client experience of how people run through that container, so on and so forth. But there is a checklist, an implementation checklist. Again, for your authority anchors, did you update your bio, your about page, your hero copy, your elevator pitch, your whatever, right? And you can now submit your implementation checklist and you can check all of the places where you uploaded and updated and refined your positioning now that you have your authority anchor done. And that not only gives me a signal that you are doing something with the work that we are doing together, but that you also know exactly what to do with those core pieces. And so I ended up making an implementation checklist for every single pillar as you go through SOS, just to help with that actual implementation step, right? Strategy only matters unless, like, as much as you use it, right? And see it in real life and not just live with it hypothetically behind the scenes and just talk about it all the time. And so that was a really cool feature that I added for clients, and they loved it. They were like, okay, now I feel so much better and I can feel like this thing is done when I move on to the next piece. So that was really critical. And there are, of course, other examples of things that were subtly refined and changed. Oh, another one I'll give you is one of the first rounds of sold out services when it shifted into more done with you was I held once a month coaching calls. And they were an hour long on Zoom. You come to these calls. Sometimes I would teach. Sometimes you could pre-submit your questions and I would answer them, but it was an hour long. And I started to notice that not only were not that many people coming, but it was like the same 1, 2, 3, 4 faces every single time. And it just didn't feel that beneficial. I was having to process the replay. I was having to upload it as a lesson. We all know historically that replays get much lower views than the live whatever. And I personally hate watching replays of coaching calls. No matter how streamlined it is. If you submitted a question, I'll let you know, hey, here's the minute that I answered your question. And sometimes I don't even go back and watch that. So I know if this isn't beneficial for how I learn and integrate and people aren't showing up, then I'm not going to have it. It's an hour of my time every month. If you feel like you're not coming to the calls, you might feel like you are missing out on an asset and feel a certain way about your investment. I don't want to introduce that objection or that feeling if it's unnecessary. So I decided to eliminate the coaching calls altogether. Had another launch, introduced 13 new clients. It was going great. And what I was realizing is that folks were using the support ticket as more chances for verbal processing, talking out one-on-one time with me. They would record a Loom video, they would submit it via support ticket. I would watch it, record a Loom video, submit it back. And we would kind of do that dance back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And to some level, that's fine. But to some degree, well, if we were to just talk about this for literally 2 minutes together in the same room, we could get a lot further faster. And I could help you more in the moment. And so what I decided to introduce were office hours. And so it's every other week, so twice a month now, but they're only for 30 minutes. I'm going to hop on no matter what. There's no pre-submitted questions. We're not recording it, so there's no replay. You come if you want. You can ask a question. As soon as your question's answered, you can leave, or you can stay the whole time. You can screen share. I can screen share. We can talk it out, right? And what I'm starting to see is that new faces are coming every single office hours. They're asking really great questions. They're getting unstuck really quickly. We're able to talk out and brainstorm together so that they can continue to see progress. And I've gotten really great positive feedback from clients who show up to office hours and find it very helpful. It's low lift for me because after office hours, there's nothing for me to do. I'm not uploading a replay. I'm not waiting for it to process. None of it. It's just come or don't. It is truly like if I had an office and you stopped by my office and you walked in the door, I'm not going to record that conversation either. So it's a very similar vibe, right? So those are a couple of things that I've introduced, that I've tweaked, that I've refined over the last few months. Now, something interesting was that I was getting a couple of clients inside of Sold Out Services who were a good fit for SOS. They needed their offer to be productized. They needed the pillars installed. All of that was true. But they needed about an hour to two of additional strategizing with me before they could plug in SOS. We needed to really talk about their expertise and their authority and design the right offer. These were people who were coming to me from a really long corporate background. They had skills in a corporate or in an agency that they worked in for years and years and years. And they were now going out on their own as a consultant, as a service provider. And they wanted to fast track. How do I take that genius and package it up into an offer that's productized from the jump? And what do I need to be doing because I don't have the data in order to get that data? And then how do I make decisions to move pretty quickly, right? These are also people who maybe had a business for a very long time. I mean, we're talking 10, 15, 20 plus years, but they're like pivoting slightly and they wanted feedback on the pivot. And what do I need to be doing differently or plug in now that I can then productize, right? So I was having some conversations with those people and they were joining SOS. And we would kind of get stuck on a milestone here and there because I'm like, I really just want to strategize with you. We need to make this decision, or you need about 30 days of data before we can plug in this piece. And so go do this and then come back to me. Okay, now we need to talk about this and then come back to me. And so what I was starting to offer for those people in particular was an upgrade to their container. I call it SOS Plus, and it unlocks you SOS, the standard version, plus some additional one-on-one time with me. Quarterly postmortem and planning sessions, a longer kickoff call, or kickoff call in general, because my SOS clients on standard don't get that. A kickoff call, but also two additional calls and then a playbook where we really map out the kind of launch and marketing mechanism of this refined or new offer, so that you can get it out to market quickly and you have the content that's going to support it, right? So starting to offer invitation only folks who were ready for SOS Plus, who I knew would take action very quickly, so that really they're only delayed into using the framework of SOS, the standard program, by like 1 to 3 months, like quick action takers, right? And so I increased the price to $4,500, and actually it was $4K initially. So $4K, and offered it by invitation only. And people were saying yes to it. And what I found really interesting is that in February, so a month before cart open for this most recent launch of SOS, I had a goal. I think I defined the goal in January, but I started kind of building the foundation of it in February, that I wanted to, because I really only do 2 live launches a year, and I wanted to see some SOS enrollments throughout the year, quote unquote, on evergreen, right? It's not evergreen, it's not passive, but that's the language that's easy to understand. A live launch versus evergreen sales, right? So I had a goal that eventually, meaning at some point later in 2026, I want to consistently enroll 5 sold out service folks in between launches on evergreen. So every single month, I want to enroll 5 new clients in this container. Okay, so I had some ideas on how I was going to be able to build the awareness of that, right? Evergreen visibility and awareness is different than live, right? It's different than what I call grassroots conversions, where you're directly emailing, you're asking for direct referrals, you're putting yourself in the room in order to have the conversation. This is more, okay, is my opt-in optimized, and what do the emails say after that in order to get people to enroll in sold out services? Do I have a segment of really hot people who are interested in SOS and just have it enrolled? And do I need to be emailing them differently? Can I put out some content on my blog and utilize a Pinterest strategy to get more eyeballs on what it is I'm saying? Can I go guest on other people's podcasts or speak at summits and start to kind of grow my awareness outside of my own current network in order to get people interested, right? And so I started blogging in very, very late January and into February. At this point, it's March 23rd, and I have 4 blogs done. I invested in Jana's program. It's high level content. It's her capsule blog um, program. 10 out of 10 recommend. I want to bring her on the show so we can talk about it because it's incredible. And then I invested in Pen Potential by Megan Williamson, also recommend. And I wanted just a fast track pin strategy. I didn't want to have to learn a whole bunch of stuff. So she was really helpful and got on a one-on-one with me. And she was just like, look at this lesson, and this lesson. And then this is all you really, if you only take away these things, then that's going to get you enough results. So I said, great. So I started writing a couple of blog posts. I started pinning. I refined the emails that were happening after someone opted into my Authority Anchor, my video series, which is a really high converting opt-in. And then I created a funnel for people who were in my hot segment, and I emailed them once a week for weeks and weeks and weeks on end. And I'm just a little bit more direct about why sold out services is right for them, if it is, or how they can make that decision. Right? So anyways, I start all this stuff in February. And I don't expect these things to provide me a result for months into the future, right? Blogging is a little bit of a longer term strategy. Pinning is a longer term strategy. An email funnel, you just need a good amount of data in order to see it. So all of that was rolling out at the end of January and into February. And in February, I converted 5 sold out services clients on Evergreen. I cannot tell you that it's, specifically just from a blog or a pen or whatever. I'm not saying any of that, but there was some magic in the air in February, and 5 people decided to enroll. And so I hit my target, and it was truly bonkers, right? But what was interesting was that 2 of those 5 people needed SOS Plus. And when I pitched it to them, they enrolled. And that's the program that they bought. That's the version of the program that they bought. And I was really interested in that conversation, right? It's $2,500 for the standard, $4K for the plus. Okay, great. What does this look like then, right? And needing to make sure that I'm keeping track of my capacity, because those SOS Plus requires a kickoff call and quarterly calls and a couple of other assets, right? But still really doable and really easy. And I love a kickoff call. I love a check-in call. I love these things, right? But I still want to be mindful about my capacity. So flash forward to March, and I'm, writing emails and content and recording podcasts and all the things and just doing the launch. We get to webinar. There's a little bit of a tech issue at the beginning of the webinar, but honestly, when I looked and compared numbers, it might have impacted 5 to 10 people getting into the room. And at the end of the day, that's negligible, right? I put up the replay on YouTube. It's public, and over 80 people watched it, which never happens for me. So I'm like, okay, well, that's bonkers, right? So I'm going through the launch, and I can already tell when you've been doing this for as long as I have, 15 years in, countless launches. I cannot even count how many times I've launched something, right? But for this program in particular, this is now the 4th launch of it, minimum. I can tell. I get a vibe check pretty immediately. And I could already tell that this launch was going to be quieter than others. People weren't asking as many questions. The traffic on my video asks, because I can tell when people select a different option on that to book a call with me or submit a question or to just to view the sales page was lower than last time. And just it's this weird intuition feeling where you can just tell the vibe of the space is just quieter. It's not bad. It was just quieter. Now, leading up to this launch, I had done hella work on my messaging. I had gotten some incredible feedback from people I very much respect and trust in my November launch. And they were like, hey, it sounds great. And the messaging is still kind of confusing. I don't really think it's landing. Is this what you mean? Or is that what you mean? And honestly, my launch in November did really well. I exceeded my numbers. And I was like, okay, well, if the messaging was that and I exceeded, then what's it going to be when I refine that messaging? And the numbers were all looking very consistent. I grew my list by the same amount of people. I had the same amount of people registered for the webinar. I had the same amount of people show up live. Like all of these things were still true. And I could already tell that it's going to be a stretch to reach the goal that I had for this launch. And quite frankly, that is fine. I am not in the one-to-many business. So like there is a big difference for me in 5 people to 7 people to 9 people. Those are all great benchmarks for me. Right? Anything above 10, that's when it starts to be like, okay, do we have the capacity to handle this? And that's where that conversation of this might be a different vibe that needs to happen. So truly no worries there. Or going through launch, and a couple of people are booking some sales calls with me, and I'm having some people email me, and I'm messaging people on DMs. And there are a couple of people who SOS Plus is a better fit for. So again, invite only. You can't see at that time, you could not see SOS Plus on my website at all. I didn't talk about it. I didn't even reference it on Instagram or Threads or in this show. I truly wanted it to be invite only. And I really was like, really tightly managing my capacity there. I didn't want 10 people to join SOS Plus. I didn't have the capacity for that. And that's fine. That is just awareness, right? Well, so I was pitching it to people who it was a good fit for. And of the 10 total people who enrolled, 4 of them, 4? Yeah. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah. 4 of them did SOS Plus. Interesting. It's not half, obviously. But I was talking to a friend and I said, I feel like people are resonating, not just resonating so much with my messaging, but they're resonating or they're repelling like pretty instantly. And that's what you want messaging to do, right? And I said, I feel like if I had had my same messaging that I had in November, I would have exceeded my launch goal. But that means people who were enrolling in SOS, it might not have been a perfect fit for. So the tighter and more clear the messaging is, the less people who might be in your current audience right now raising their hands who are perfect for it. That's okay. That means the people I'm working with are so perfectly ideal. It's not even funny, right? So perfectly ideal. And the people who have SOS Plus are a perfect candidate for SOS Plus. So I'm in a peer-to-peer mastermind with some incredible humans. Love them so much. And I was talking about the launch. It was, we had our mastermind meeting the day after CAR opened. And I, again, as a veteran, I could already tell the energy is different this launch. It's going to be a little slower. I'm probably not going to reach my goal. All of that's fine, right? I know the right people are going to come in. I have never have a concern about that. So they reflected back to me because 2 of the mastermind members for sure could be really great candidates for SOS. But they're like, I'm resonating with your messaging. I'm loving the sales page. I'm loving the content. I'm loving how you're structuring it. And then I get to the price and I'm like, there's no way that she's going to be able to deliver the one-on-one attention that I think is in this program at that price point. And there's a disconnect between the level 10 client that my messaging is now shaped for and the price and the access. Okay, great. So what happens if we bring back some more and some additional one-on-one elements? What happens? What does my capacity look like then? And so I communicated the Saturday after, because I edited some of the emails. I think it was the Saturday or Sunday after CAR opened, because CAR opened on a Thursday. I had this conversation with my friends in my mastermind on Friday. And over the weekend, I tweaked every email after that. And I added a blurb that said, just so you're aware, on Thursday at 9:01 p.m., the price is going up. And I was not planning to raise the price of sold out services until Q4 of this year. But I was like, my audience, my level 10 client is telling me that this is what needs to be refined in order for this to be a perfect fit. And it's not just raising the price, it's raising the price and raising one-on-one access. So I communicated that early, and still when people were coming through and asking about SOS, if they were an ideal fit for SOS Plus, I was going ahead and pitching that because I wasn't raising the price of SOS just to raise it. I was raising it and adding one-on-one. And so, okay, great. You can dive in right now without that one-on-one for this price point. You still have that option. If you want the new version though, with the one-on-one, then, and I think you're a good fit for it right now, then I'm going to go ahead and present it. Right. And so who I presented it to converted. So there's 100% conversion on the SOS Plus, which is wild. So 11 p.m., because I was working and tired, at 11 p.m. on cart night, I raised the price to SOS to $4,500, added in the one-on-one components that you get in SOS Plus, and now that is just SOS. There's only one version now, and it's Plus. Because I'm confident that now the messaging is on point, that I don't need to personally invite to SOS Plus, that the right people who SOS Plus is for are going to enroll, and the people who are not ready for it are not going to enroll. That's where I needed to get to a point where my messaging was doing that filtering for me in order to feel confident about having that price available publicly and that access, that one-on-one access available publicly. And the proof is in the pudding. The data of this launch was ideal fit clients are reaching out, and people who probably would have enrolled last fall are realizing now it's not for them. So I had a couple people email and they're like, hey, I feel like I'm not ready for this. Here's why. And I just wanted to ask you this question. And I would respond to them and they go, yep, based on what you're saying, I need this, this, and that. And I'll come back when I have that. That is great. That is literally how this is set up to work. And that makes me so happy that we're now in a space where the messaging is doing that heavy lifting for me. And so that refinement happened literally mid-launch. And it's not a refinement of that, launch specifically. It's, hey, I wasn't going to do this until later this year, but I'm raising the price Thursday night. And I need you to know that. And then I did. And then I raised it. And then I added the one-on-one components. And for that part, I'm legitimately really excited because, if you look at the math, right, it's not quite double, but almost. So it's, for almost every 2 standard SOS people, I now need 1 SOS Plus, which is all sold out services now. So sorry if I'm confusing you. There's only one thing. It's $4,500. It's 12 months. It's the SOS methodology plus all the support that you would have gotten in the normal program, plus some additional one-on-one touch points, that kickoff call, those quarterly calls, and a couple of other things, right? So that I'm legitimately excited about. So now the tweaks are, okay, how can I make sure I'm honoring my capacity for kickoff calls and the quarterly sessions and, right, at this new version? And what I also want you to take away from this is that for the past year, I've been tweaking and refining an existing container. I'm not making something new. I am not making something new. I want you to see that you have complete freedom and flexibility to change scope, assets, timeline, price point, messaging, all of it inside of an existing offer. You don't need to sunset something. It might make sense for you too. I'm not saying that's a never, but I think a lot of people get to that's such a drastic change. That's a new offer. What's that going to be called? Who's it for? Now I need to design a sales page for it and write the copy. No, you don't. No, you don't. Sold Out Services started as a Thrivecart checkout page. It actually started as a Google Doc checkout page, a Google Doc sales page, and then I would invoice them. And then I moved it to Thrivecart, and the sales page was on Thrivecart. And then when my website got redesigned, I moved the sales page to Squarespace, and now it's just Thrivecart embedded. It's been 1, 2, 3, 4 different price points, both started high and then down, and then went back up again. The messaging the result has always been very similar. The result from the very first launch was too big. But after that, It's been the same. Increase your capacity, scale your service work, productize so you can increase your capacity and scale your service work, right? The support of that inside continues to get better. An element I'm testing for this cohort also is I want to live teach one of the new lessons that's coming. So I'm going to be talking about what I have found really helpful is naming your methodology and creating a framework, an actual order of operations for how you do what you do in your container and how you provide the result. And I have a really fun way to figure that out and design yours and think about it and talk about it. And then once you have it, how do you use it, right? What does it actually impact? And so I'm live teaching that for I love live teaching, first of all. So that part feels fun. But the second portion of that will be for Q&A. So it's yet another one-on-one touch point. It's a one to, whoever else is there touch point, but I won't record that Q&A portion. It's not going to be added to the lesson. So the lesson will just be me live teaching. You're not even going to know that there's other people there. And then we'll do Q&A and I'll cut that from that particular asset and or I'm recording it anyways. So I might as well be available for questions because that's like one of my favorite parts. So I'm excited. I'm excited to see how this container continues to evolve and grow. I'm excited that, Sold Out Services is open all of the time. Throughout the year, you might just get an extra launch bonus. And that's just part of it, right? And that might shift and change in the future as well. Who knows? As of right now, what I'm trying to do is protect the onboarding windows of people who are enrolling. And so I did not realize about myself that because I never considered myself like a yes woman, like, oh yeah, I can do that. No problem. Yeah, we can start. Yeah. All of this. I feel like I have really good boundaries. But what I was doing that I didn't realize I was doing was when someone wanted to work with me, I felt really, really, really bad if I had to push that. If I said, we can't get started until next month or the month after or whatever. And I was afraid that I would lose a relationship and lose the contract if I wasn't available the next week. So I started practicing that and communicating, hey, we can onboard you in 4 weeks, in 6 weeks, in 8 weeks. And for if you communicate that, it's fine. It's great for people. And so I had someone who enrolled in February in SOS Plus and said, I can't get started until May, but I want to go ahead and lock it in. Great. And so I want to be able to figure out what is just like all of us as service providers, if pick your start date, right? Of when someone decides to enroll, how are we going to stagger that? And that's me and my team to figure out, right? So all in all, it was a great launch, working with some incredible people. Onboarding is staggered, which is so fun. And I'm so excited about that. I've got some incredible people in SOS Plus. Well, all of those kickoffs are starting. I have my first one next week. So SOS Plus kickoff calls start next week. I'm very excited. And I'm ready to see, the continued refinement for this container. And there's also, there's new things coming where I really want to, I always think it's really cool when a program or a service has its impact measured, whether it's an hours saved or team members hired or money earned or whatever, right? So I want to measure that, I think, in capacity, in actual hours. Founder hours saved by productization. And I'm going to be starting to send out weekly or monthly reminders for you all to submit what task you automated, streamlined, eliminated, delegated, whatever, how much time it was taking you before and how much time is it taking you now, so I can start to track those hours saved over time. So I'm really excited about stuff like that too. And I'm telling you, when you go all in on an offer and just refined that offer, you get to make it really fucking good. And you get to nerd out about all of these extra things and the bells and whistles that make it good and great because my energy is spent here. and the decision fatigue of what to sell today and what to talk about today and how to market this because I also have that is non-existent for me. It's non-existent. So just so you know, Sold Out Services has continued to refine and has gotten a new recent glow up. And you should definitely head to soldoutservices.com/enroll or just soldoutservices.com, and you can just hit the work with me button up top and see what it's about. And if you have any questions whatsoever, the video ask is still embedded and you can book a time with me. You can record an audio message, you can record a video, you can type, and I'll get notified and I will get back to you. So, would love to work with you inside of that container if it makes sense. And that's a little insight into how this most recent Sold Out Services launch went. Hey, thank you so much for listening to this episode of Sell the Damn Service. I'm really honored that you spent however many minutes you just did with me. Now, if you could go do me a very quick favor and be sure to like, subscribe, leave a rating and a review for this podcast over on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, or, pick your favorite platform. I'm not going to be that choosy. It truly means the world to me. It's how little tiny shows that are like mine, that are self-funded and, being edited in between dinner time and school pickup, it helps us get seen. It's free for you to do and takes just a couple of minutes. And I would love you forever. If I could send you an edible arrangement as a big thank you, I would. So instead, consider this giant thank you directed just at you for going to do that. And share this episode or this podcast with a friend who needs to hear it. I love ranting and raving about service-based business strategies. And, I think more people should listen to this show, honestly. So I appreciate you. Thank you so much. I really, really, really am grateful that you're here, and we will chat very soon.